Hello, everybody. We must figure out a way to do this so that it's not like completely ridiculous. So, we are here to talk about meditation again. It's like in the wee hours of the night. And I was meditating to try and get to sleep, and then the opposite thing happened, which is that I got um, inspired and then wired, which happens sometimes. It's a sort of uh, unexpected side effect of meditation that happens sometimes. Sometimes you get like invigorated. Anyway, there was something that Sharon Massey said that triggered another kind of inspirational topic that I wanted to talk about, which I didn't get to in my last video. I wanted to tell a story about that. So this is dedicated to Sharon Massey and also to my friend Celine, who talks to me a lot about meditation and has many questions, like I always did. Um, and do. Basically, when I grew up in the ashram in India, there was a very kind of set terminology for things. So it was not like, it was not strictly one size fits all, but there was a sort of accepted kind of jargon for what was going on in meditation and what were sort of the acceptable terms for things that were spiritual. And one of the kind of conventions of talking about the space or the essence of consciousness and life that was at the root of everything was to describe it as blue black. And the way that the meditation technique was prescribed was often that when you close your eyes, most people say they see nothing, but what they actually see is an expanse of blue black color. And when I closed my eyes, I saw red, um, which led me to the obvious conclusion that I was excluded from being eligible for the benefits of meditation. And I used to argue with my parents, and I think they probably got a little too bogged down in arguing with me, like about no, it's blue black, no, it's red, rather than just saying it doesn't matter what color you see. Um, anyway, so that was one kind of reason that I like it, but eventually I realized that it was the mind that was always looking for a reason to not meditate. So it would say, well, what about this and what about that? And it was like this kind of moving target that was always morphing into a new form. And uh, and so yeah, so that was a thing that happened. And I think I asked my guru about that too. I asked him, oh yeah, I asked him about, it was interesting because Sharon Massey said something that happens to her that never has happened to me, which is that she would go out. And my parents used to say that too. They would say, oh, I really went out. And my experience of meditation when I started was that my thoughts would dovetail. Like there was no gap between the thoughts. It was just thought, 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 thought. And so much so that they were overlapping. Like one of the things that they also used to prescribe was look for the space between the thoughts. And I'd be like, what space? They're piled on top of each other. It's like form, 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 form. Like there's, and also I wouldn't even necessarily know that I was there if there wasn't a form that I could bounce off or something like that. Anyway, so yeah, so I use that also as an excuse to not meditate and consider myself ineligible, so I could be It's this interesting kind of ego that was like uniquely handicapped and very special snowflake, which was ineligible for meditation. And therefore, I was perfectly justified in running outside and playing during meditation, which, what was not as much encouraged by my parents, but it was encouraged by my guru, who was like, freedom first. He always advocated for freedom. So, anyway, what was the other thing I wanted to talk about? Oh, yes. So I asked my guru about that. And he said, he said, like, your parents, when they talk about going out, are basically falling asleep and making it sound very special. But he said, like, people have various different experiences of meditation, but the most important thing to focus on is who is meditating. Try to find the root of a consciousness, whatever you're perceiving. Who are you that is perceiving it? If you strip away your name and your form, what is the intelligence behind everything that you know? And anyway, so that was like the part one to the other conversation I had with my guru about, because then I started noticing, oh, I'm making a face every time I think of the one who's observing. And then he said, yeah, that's the one. Like he kind of, in that second answer, he also like he said, okay, so you know what it's not, then you know what it is. So why are you asking? That was one part of it. But also he was kind of saying, like, when you know what consciousness is, what intelligence is intuitively, there's no need to berate yourself for having this kind of allegorical touchstone for it, something that you. So if you make a face, like, there's nothing wrong in it, any more than using a mantra would be wrong, or watching your breath would be wrong. All of those things are tools to get to the finer consciousness. Anyway, then the other thing that I wanted to talk about was Maalaas, because yet another tool for meditation is these kind of beads. Traditionally, they are a string of 108 beads, and there are various rules about them, which are quite funny. Um, One of them is that there should be 108 beads, and it's supposed to be the sacred number. But it's interesting. Historically, there is no real record of 108 being sacred except in connection with Maalaas. And apparently, the original idea about Maalaas, or meditation beads, was that the 8 was the estimated number of times a person makes a mistake doing the mantra, speaking their mantra out loud or in their head, when they're doing roughly 100. So they add 8 to make up for the estimated number of mistakes out of 100 that a person is likely to make, and which is quite pragmatic. I mean, that's kind of almost utilitarian. That's not really esoteric at all. It's not the mystical meaning you might be hoping for. Um, it's funny though. Anyway, the other rule is, I have an example, Molly, here. So you have 108 beads, and then there is what is called, I'm not going to touch it with my index finger because the index finger is the naughty finger. Index finger is the finger of wrath, which you don't generally use for spiritual things if you can avoid it, because it is a kind of destructive finger. Anyway, so if you're holding the prayer beads, you usually make a ring out of your ring finger and thumb, and then use your middle finger to draw the beads through the ring, like this. And then when you reach the what is called the guru bead, or the it's this kind of main marker bead, you can touch it, but you do not cross over to the other side. What you do is you reverse and go back to show respect for it. And now what happens to me is that it gets stuck in, in my palm, and then especially with this new mala because it's very new and tight and very kinky. Um, and they, after use, they become kind of more relaxed and looser. But at the moment, when I get to this bead and then I try to reverse back, I'm struggling a bit because it gets stuck, and then it's kind of like this bubble gets formed. This is a very complicated thing. Anyway, so this is my latest mala that I have bought. For years, I had, when I went to Malaysia to visit my dad, I had just broken my mala that my mother had given me. So my mother passed away in 98, and she had given me this crystal mala that was like white agate, this beautiful thing. I broke it. So when I was in the ashram, there were people who knew how to string them with the special knots in between so that it's a nice space. Gives you the perfect amount of space so that you can do the counting, and it's kind of comfortably. Here we, I have not found a person in Thailand for that. And although I learned how to do it, I forgot. So, so when I went to Malaysia, I wanted a mala. Like my mala had just broken, and I wanted to meditate in Malaysia in this new environment. So, in one of the shopping malls, they had Muslim prayer beads, which I bought because they were there, available for sale, and it's like 100 beads. So, according to my logic and research, that is adequate as long as I don't make 8 mistakes. I kind of don't really mind about the mistakes anyway. So yeah, and in a pinch, I will use anything to meditate. Like, if it's there, it's sacred. So so I bought that, and I've been using that mala for like 4 years, and suddenly I was like, I want like something special because I was going to this onsen and they had a meditation room, and I wanted to use something. Well, quite honestly, I probably wanted to use something a little ostentatious. Um, that was like, I am meditating because there's other people there, so I have to make an impression. So anyway, there was this. I decided, I had seen in the night market, I had seen these what I thought were crystal malas. Now, when I went back to the night market, what I thought was a crystal mala was actually a knockoff Chanel freshwater pearl necklace. Um, but I didn't know it was Chanel because I didn't know what the logo for Chanel looked like. I just thought, they have these funny little link beads in it. I don't know what those are, but I guess they'll be fine. Anyway, so I bought that. It's like 140 beads. And this is a very boring anecdote, but I'm telling it because I amused myself with it. Anyway, so then I brought it home. And I liked it because I actually really like the energy of freshwater pearl. It's very lunar, it's very cooling, it's very mysterious and mystical as well. So I was quite pleased with it. And apart from the fact that, I think I have to put that down. Apart from the fact that it had these links in it that were quite annoying. Because when I was doing the counting with the mantra, it was like you'd get to one of those links and you'd kind of stumble over it with your fingers. And that was not very mystical an experience. So then the other thing that happened was it didn't have a guru bead. It didn't have the main marker bead, which is actually not only like the sacred bead, but it's also your starting point. Yeah, I was just a little bit worried that there was too much heat from that plate, and this is my bed actually. I don't want to set the bed on fire. Um, so yeah. So the other thing was, no marker bead. So what I did was I had a amethyst pendant. I don't like the tassels for malas. Usually they come with thread tassels, and I find that those get very ratty very quickly. So I decided that I was going to have a pendant. So I had this amethyst heart pendant, which I tied onto the Chanel knockoff mother of pearl necklace with dental floss. Lots of little knots, and then it's kind of this dangling thing. And anyway, I'm very pleased with it, but I do not like the Chanel links, and plus it looks like cheesy and trashy. So I'm gonna try to go to one of those sort of old witchy Chinese antique stores and ask them if they can remove the links so that I can just have the freshwater pearls. Um, anyway, that's my story about Maalaas. Oh yes, no, wait. I'm not done with this story. You see now, I'm bringing this back up because actually I want to do a demonstration. That's the reason. So, so yes, that rule about not crossing the guru bead is apparently a rule that my guru, being a guru, did not follow. Um, and my guru he was like from a lineage in India that was kind of traditional, but also there were a lot of Hindu rules that he found very annoying and did not advise us to follow or use himself. But he used to use the mala, and he used to make a figure eight like this, the symbol of infinity, and then he would use two hands, which means that, for one thing, you're using the left hand for a mala, which in Hinduism is traditionally kind of taboo to use the left hand for eating or for anything sacred. And then the other thing is that um, it would require you to cross the guru bead with your left hand at some point. So if you're counting like this, it's going to get round to that point where the guru bead is going to come through the back entrance of the ring of your left hand, and then you're going to cross it. Because I don't think, otherwise you'd just be going back and forth half of the mala, which doesn't seem like something that you would do. Anyway, yes, I have used that too because I'm fully prepared to try something profane if it does the job for me. And the other thing is that it's a very good way of stretching out a kinky mala when the mala is new. Um, it kind of puts more stress on it, and also you're not going to have that problem of getting stuck on the guru bead and forming a bubble, which then you might damage your mala when the bubble breaks. I don't know if any of that made sense, but I wanted to make like a ridiculous. This is the reason I have a YouTube channel actually, is because I can get very inspired about talking about these topics, which are really niche and eccentric and silly. And my friends are sick of hearing about them. Like if I call my friend in Portugal, she has gone to sleep during one of my monologues. Like she just started snoring. And then my other friend from Vietnam is very polite about being disinterested, but I mean, she will kind of like get distracted by something in her own life that interests her if I go on for too long about one of my eccentric topics. So, but I have all the stuff that I like to talk about, so I just put it on YouTube. So if you listen this far, thank you. You're very sweet, and I had fun telling it, but I don't know if it's of interest to anyone else. Anyway, so that is esoterica about malas and meditation. And then also, most important with meditation, there is no one size fits all technique, but the more you focus on the observer, the one who is meditating, the better, generally speaking. Anyway, yes, the more you the more you tune into the consciousness, the power by which you perceive everything. You really can't go wrong with that. Anyway, or just let go and see what happens. Okay, I'm signing off because This is a very funny video. Okay, bye.